to page 394.
Lord Lady at 12 o'clock! 3, 2, yes!
Sirius Black has escaped from Azkaban prison. He's a murderer.
Sirius Black is the reason the Potters are dead.
And now he wants to finish what he started.
I want you to swear to me you won't go looking for Black.
Why would I go looking for someone who wants to kill me?
There's something moving out there.
It was a Dementor, one of the guards of Azkaban, is searching the train for Sirius Black. It is not in the nature of a Dementor to be forgiving.
I hope he finds me. Because when he does, I'm going to be ready.
You must look beyond.
Filthy little mudblood.
Foul, the loathsome, evil little cockroach. Oh, that felt good.
Expecto Patronum!
Gladden! Holy Spirit!
I mean, of course I had to add in the Seth Green clip from the Italian Job. I mean, that's literally, I think, what most people were like when they just watched that trailer, because, man, what a great trailer that was. Remember that feeling that we used to have back in the day when a new Harry Potter trailer came out, and we actually got excited for it because the movies were pretty good, the love of the series was still there, from the books to the movies, you know. Nowadays, it feels like it's no longer what this series used to be like anymore. Like, nobody wants to see Fantastic Beasts anymore. The Harry Potter series in general has really kind of died off of its popularity because of stuff going on with J.K. Rowling, all the stuff that she said, and the fact that Warner Brothers just can't let it go. They can't get somebody else to come in and do something new and different with it. And, you know, this was back in the good old days, man. And that trailer, man, just an amazing trailer. Probably the best trailer from the Harry Potter series in general. From the movie that most people would agree is the best of the Harry Potter films. Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban comes to us from Alfonso Cuarón, who was actually selected from a list of directors, and then included such people like Callie Curry, who did Thelma and Louise, and Kenneth Branagh, which I thought would have been very interesting if he got the chance to do that. But in this movie, you have Harry and his friends returning to Hogwarts for their third year, and it's his quest to uncover the truth about his past, including the connection recently escaped Azkaban prisoner Sirius Black, played by Gary Oldman, has to Harry and his deceased parents. And, yeah, the movie itself, this is the movie where really the dark tone of the series began to take shape. The first two films were seen mostly as, you know, they were mostly kid-friendly films in general. I mean, you had Chris Columbus as a director, and I think he did a pretty good job of handling both of those movies. But we're getting into the darker stories of these series, and you needed a great director to really come in and shift the tone in a way that doesn't feel unnatural, but feels like a progression of what's to come. And really, this movie definitely is a pure example of where the series was going from this point forward, because every movie that came after this, the tone was clearly shifting over to a more adult feel. Even though it's still got a PG rating in general, you could tell that this movie was definitely going for the more darker tone. I mean, for the trailers alone, the great teaser trailer, you know, with them singing "Something Wicked This Way Comes," and you have all this imagery, including the first view of the Dementors, and like, yeah, this was clearly not another movie that was feeling like a typical Harry Potter kid-friendly adventure. No, this was clearly the progression of the series going forward, and it really is an amazing film. Not only just because of the fact that Alfonso Cuarón is a great director and he brought his own style to it. The casting overall is getting a lot better. The three kids, Daniel Radcliffe, Rupert Grint, and Emma Watson, this is probably their overall best performances in the series up to this point. I mean, this is they're really giving it their all here. The dramatic elements are working out so well. The visuals are still very impressive to look at. It never feels like they're going completely overboard. The action sequences are top-notch. You know, great iconic moments in there. And this really is right in the thick of probably being the best overall Harry Potter movie in general. I mean, this is a film that is just really... it's just a really amazing, amazing film that even people who weren't big Harry Potter fans can look at this and go, man, they really, really put all their effort to make this really damn good, and they made this about as epic as you can get it. I mean, someone like me, who really was not into Harry Potter at first, I slowly but surely kind of got into it once the Goblet of Fire book came out, and then the movies I slowly but surely made my way to, and this was actually one of the first ones I actually saw. I was really impressed by what they were able to do here. I think it was I think they did a very good job of handling it. The shifting of where the series had gone to this point is just amazing to see. Like, it's a great movie, man. I mean, I'm just really kind of repeating myself from this point forward, but it's just like, I can't help it, man. The casting in the movie is great, you know. They added new people, like I said, Gary Oldman as Sirius Black. You got David Thewlis, Timothy Spall, Emma Thompson. One of the big ones is that Michael Gambon, who plays Dumbledore in this, because Richard Harris had died in 2002. And it's a really good, seamless transition, too. Like, you really can't tell the difference between Richard Harris and Michael Gambon at first. It really takes it really takes further on into the series to really know the big differences between Gambon and Richard Harrison's performances. But yeah, the movie is just really, really good, man. Like, I can't really recommend this movie more. I mean, this is a movie that I really do think is easily one of the strongest, if not the strongest movie in the series. And the series does get better, especially towards the end with the second part of the Deathly Hallows, but in terms of a quality overall film in general, this movie right here really does take the cake. This is probably easily one of the best, if not the best, Harry Potter movies. It's an epic adventure. It knows that we've got to move into this more darker territory. The shift has got to change, and it does it with such a seamless transition that you can't help but really appreciate what they're able to do here. I really love this movie. I think you'll love it too, obviously, but yeah, it's Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. Probably some would argue that it is the best Harry Potter film, and for me, I would tend to agree with that.
An unholy crusade
Convert now or fall forever.
threatens the worlds of man.
But sometimes evil shouldn't be fought by good. It should be pitted against another kind of evil.
Are you with me?
You are not the one to bring me down.
Here's this man.
The Chronicles of Riddick. You're not afraid of the dark, are you? This film is not yet rated.
Oh, we're afraid of the dark. We're just not afraid of you, Vin Diesel. Yeah, this is a movie that is very pretentious, if you will, but you have Richard Bruno Riddick, once again played by Vin Diesel, now a hunted man finding himself in the middle of two opposing forces in a major crusade. Lord Marshall, played by Colm Feore, is a warrior priest who is the leader of a sect that is waging the 10th and perhaps final crusade 500 years in the future. Orion, played by Dame Judi Dench, is an ambassador for the elemental race. She is an ethereal, E-T-H-E-R-E-A-L. I don't know if I'm saying that right. She's a being. I already said it already. I'm moving on. She is a being who helps Riddick unearth his origins, and you see Tandy Newton in there as well. And yeah, one of the biggest problems that this movie had in particular is that it took a really cool character from Pitch Black, and like I said, it makes the story much more pretentious and trying to add more of weight to it that doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. There's a whole lot of stuff in this movie that does not make any sense whatsoever. You have one of the worst lines probably in one of the worst lines ever, where you have the kid asking, "Are you going to stop the monsters now?" And Vin Diesel goes, "I am the monster." It's just like, what does that even mean? Like, you are not a threatening person whatsoever in this. You're a cool-looking dude, but you are not threatening by any means necessary. And like I said, it's way too serious for its own good. It gets way too pretentious. It's trying to have this, like, it seems like it's trying to have this political message to it, but it feels too much like the Star Wars prequels, honestly. Like, it's trying to it's adding way too much stuff into something that does not need to be in a movie like this. And it would help if the movie was actually fun or enjoyable, but no, it's very bleak. The characters are badly written, wasting a lot of great talent in the cast here. It's just not a very good movie in general. But kind of like with Van Helsing the month before, it did eventually lead to a pretty cool direct-to-DVD movie, The Chronicles of Riddick Dark Fury, which is probably the overall best thing from this series, the more I think about it, because, you know, Pitch Black was pretty good. Riddick is definitely better than this movie here. At least, that one at least knew it had to go back to being fun again, but this they were just going way too far with it. This is a film that is literally trying way too hard to be this tough, serious, satirical, deep movie, when it's just like, no, go back to being the fun movie that you were with Pitch Black. This is not what we want to see here, and this backfired spectacularly, and it was not a big hit when it came out. They were really hyping this up. They had like a trailer in front of the Friends during the Friends finale, thinking that, okay, let's get the eyes here, and then surely they'll come and see this movie, and needless to say, that was not the case. But yeah, that is the Chronicles of Riddick. So let's see what our next movie is, and how appropriate. Let's talk about Garfield the movie.
Next summer, get ready for some frisky business. Garfield.
Well, well, Daddy.
I'm walking the dog.
He's just a fat, happy,
Down, dumb dog.
lazy cat.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, you little sucker.
You are the last person to be talking about suck-ups, Bill Murray, because you said yes to this movie, and unfortunately, because you said yes to it because you thought it was done by the Coen brothers, you had to be forced to do the sequel. And this is Garfield the movie. This is the movie that was the first big screen adaptation of the classic comic strip by Jim Davis, and it stars Breckin Meyer as John Arbuckle, Jennifer Love Hewitt as Dr. Liz Wilson, and Bill Murray as the voice of Garfield. And as the story shows, the movie is basically just kind of an origin story based off of Here Comes Garfield, where Garfield and John are living together, and then he decides to take care of this dog named Odie, and chaos and hilarity ensues, or at least this movie should make you think that. But this is an intriguing movie for me because I should hate this movie. It does Garfield, one of my favorite animated characters of all time, so wrong. It takes his world and the characters around him and just waters them down to no end. John Arbuckle is not the same John Arbuckle we've seen from the comics, the specials, or in Garfield and Friends. No, he's just Breckin Meyer. He's just a nice guy who just has no real problems whatsoever. And Liz is nothing like she is in the comics or the specials. She doesn't have that love-hate relationship with John. No, it's Jennifer Love Hewitt. If we have to show her having some love-hate to her, that'd be so against type of her. Like, she's literally just playing herself in the movie. The rest of the characters are nowhere near as close to their original counterparts. Like, yeah, Odie's not yellow, because it's not like there are yellow dogs out there. Oh, wait, yes, they are. Normal's in the movie, the cutest cat in the world, just played by a random guy in the movie. Like, he's just a normal character. Arlene, one of the characters that they don't even use in the cartoon, Garfield and Friends, the original Garfield and Friends, she's in here, except she's voiced by Grace from Will and Grace, and that's just all she is. She's just Grace from Will and Grace as a cat. I mean, that's literally all the characters in this movie. They watered this world down so much. Fox did not give a shit about this movie whatsoever. I should despise this movie on so many levels, and yet I don't. I can't really figure out why that's the case. There's just so many flaws to this film, so many faults to it. Garfield's animation is so bad. The story is very predictable. The human characters are so dumb. Even the villain in the movie, played by Stephen Tobolowsky, Ned Ryerson, kind of tying it back to what I said at the beginning of the episode. But he's not that great of a villain. I mean, he thinks that if he takes this dog, it's just going to be so much better for his career. And like, not even the main characters, but the supporting characters too. Again, something I should hate, but yet I don't. Bill Murray, he only took this movie because he thought that this was a Garfield movie written by Joel Cohen of the Coen brothers, when it was actually written by another person with the same name, but with an H in there, in Cohen, Cohen. And I mean, he's written some good stuff before. He wrote Toy Story. I mean, but he thought that this was written by the Coen brothers, and I don't get why he would think that, because why would the Coen brothers want to tackle a Garfield movie? I mean, like, that makes no sense whatsoever. And unfortunately, because he said yes to this, he was already locked into a sequel before the first one ever came out. This is one of the few times I think Bill Murray has one of those big regrets of his career. And he's made some movies that have not been that great, but this, I feel like is probably one of his biggest regrets in general. Again, should lead to something I hate, but I don't. I really don't. Like, I really cannot explain what it is. There's just something about this movie that is so insulting to the Garfield franchise, and yet it's a movie that whenever it's on, I feel kind of obligated to at least watch it. I don't know. Maybe it's because of Bill Murray. I mean, Bill Murray, I think, is somebody that I've wanted to hear as the voice of Garfield for a long period of time. Him and Norm Macdonald, but of course, that last one's not going to happen now. But it's maybe the nostalgia, how excited I was when I was 15 seeing this. I mean, this was a movie that I was really looking forward to because I'm a big Garfield fan in general. Hell, I showed you my Garfield love when I did the Garfield movie review. I mean, it's a movie that's not good at all. But it has that kind of a weird charm that keeps me coming back to it. I mean, it's kind of a guilty pleasure. I know it's bad. I know it's not a good movie, but it's just a film that I always keep coming back to as a guilty pleasure film. I should hate the movie, and yet I don't. And, but there are positives. I mean, yeah, you get to hear Bill Murray as Garfield. That's cool. But probably the best positive of the whole thing is that without this movie, we wouldn't have gotten these little beauties right here. Yeah, we wouldn't have gotten the Garfield and Friends TV series that I grew up watching as a kid on CBS and Nickelodeon. They would have never put these DVDs out there because there would have been no reason to. And, yeah, this is one of my favorite TV shows of all time. I mean, this is a show that is still held up after all these years. It's gotten a lot smarter and a lot funnier. This was Tiny Toons and Animaniacs level of comedy before Tiny Toons and Animaniacs came out. I mean, this show still holds up after all these years, and the fact that this movie was coming out and they felt like they had to cash in with the DVDs, I guess I should be grateful for that, for this movie, because if we didn't have this movie, these episodes, the specials, would have never come out on DVD. They would have been stuck in purgatory forever, but I guess that's the one thing I should be grateful for with this, because yeah, that's the only real reason this movie kind of I'm grateful to exist, because we wouldn't have these beauties right here if that wasn't the case. Now, Tale of Two Kitties, whole other story altogether, but we'll get to that one when we get to that one. But as far as this movie goes, it's bad. It's a bad movie, but it's a guilty pleasure movie for me. And I'm not one of those people that thinks the recent Garfield movie is worse than this. I mean, this is still bad, but the Garfield movie was at least trying and succeeded in most elements, but not all the way through. I could say it's a great film, but a good, fun film. It's still the best Garfield movie we have, but again, not by that much, all things considered. But yeah, that's Garfield the movie for you. So with that said, let's go ahead and move on to some more disappointment. Here's Nicole Kidman in Frank Oz's remake of The Stepford Wives.
This is your life. Everything you own is beautiful, perfectly constructed, ideally manufactured. Everything you possess feels, thinks, and responds as if you had it made just for you. Isn't it time you had the ultimate imperfection?
For the man who has everything.
The Stepford Wives. Make one.
Some assembly required.
That should be a really good teaser trailer for a bad movie, but even that trailer, like, everything about that trailer, just, I should like it, but at the same time, it's just, like, they're trying way too hard, man. Like, the whole thing about, like, your whole life is perfect, and I'm looking at this whole thing with, like, all the fancy cars, the fancy clothing, and just, like, my life ain't that, man. Plus, Nicole Kidman is trying way too hard to be sexy in that, like, trying to be like an obnoxious dumb blonde. But you know, dumb blondes try better than that, man. Like, that should have been the red flag going into this movie. The second red flag, a sci-fi comedy remake of a movie that was in the 1970s, based off of the original 1975 movie, was seen as a satirical psychological thriller. And they made it into a sci-fi comedy in the same vein as Men in Black, except that, yeah, it'd be like making a version of the Body Snatchers as a comedy, and not as a dark comedy, which probably could be done, but they just keep making it the same bland thing every single time. But this is the Stepford Wives. Joanne Everhart, played by Nicole Kidman, is a wildly successful president of a television network after a series of shocking events, suffering a nervous breakdown, and is moved by her milquetoast of her husband, played by Matthew Broderick, which that's probably the best way to describe Matthew Broderick in general here, milquetoast, to the chic, upper class, and very modern planned community of Stepford, Connecticut. Once there, she makes good friends with the acerbic Bobby Markowitz, played by Bette Midler, who is a Jewish writer who's also a recovering alcoholic. Together they find out, much to their growing stupor and then horror, that all the housewives in town are strangely blissful and somehow doomed. What is going on behind the closed doors of the Stepford Men's Association and the Stepford Day Spa? Why is everything perfect there? Will it be too late for Joanne and Bobby when they finally find out? Do you really give a shit at this point? Because you've seen the trailers, but if you've seen the trailers for it, you pretty much know what happens after that. And it's just like, you know, this is a movie that is really could have been a whole lot better than it actually is. But, man, this is just a bad movie, man. This is a really terrible movie that wastes so much talent. This is Frank Oz who directed this, and the writer of this is Paul Rudnick. These two guys made In and Out 7 years ago, and made a great film out of that. How do you screw this up completely? This is a film that, it's so bad that even people, it doesn't help that right off the bat, there was a lot of problems behind the scenes. None of the stars really got along with director Frank Oz in general. Nicole Kidman, Bette Midler, Christopher Walken, Glenn Close, Roger Bart. Even Matthew Broderick said that making the film was not enjoyable, saying that it was not, his part wasn't terribly interesting, it was not a thrilling film, and he would have hated it if it was his last. And Frank Oz basically said he had too much money and too responsible and concerned for Paramount and too concerned for the producers and didn't follow my instincts. So he was afraid that he was going to screw over the studios pretty much, it seems like. But yeah, and the film just fails miserably because it really does not know what kind of a film it wants to be, and the effects in this movie are so bad. There's one scene in particular where one of the wives, like there's the Stepford, the men in there are, I think the wife is played by Faith Hill, if I'm not mistaken, that does this, but he shows her that she can make money, and the way she does it is like an ATM, but he presses buttons and then money comes out of her mouth. And the way this thing looks, just, you know, I gotta show you. I wasn't even gonna show it to you, but I need to show you just how bad this is, because this is pretty bad.
I need 20. You know my pin?
Of course.
I mean, just, wow, does that look terrible. I don't think that is Faith Hill, though. I might have gotten the name wrong there, but that wasn't the point. The point I'm trying to make here is that you would have had a pretty cool idea here. You know, the idea that you can use your wife to basically, like, scan your cards and money comes out. But the way that looks is just, this was 2004. This was 20 years ago. Technology had advanced by then to make this look more realistic. That looks like something out of a computer game. Like, my God, that right there should be another red flag against the film. This whole movie is such an unmitigated mess of a film. It just really, everything that was going on behind the scenes, all the production problems, it's right there in this movie. It's the film that really makes you look at it and go, like, what the hell were you guys trying to accomplish here? And it's just, I really don't know what they were trying to do here. I mean, this is, and Paramount made some really good remakes around this time. There were a couple of movies there where they actually did make some really good remakes, like The Longest Yard, Last Holiday, Bad News Bears. So this wasn't around the time when they were just making bad remakes for the sake of remakes for the sake of just remaking stuff. And maybe they were, but this is a time when they were at least trying to do something with those remakes and succeeded for the most part. This is one of those ones that just fails right from the get-go, and it didn't help with the production problems plaguing the film from the very beginning. Usually a good director can usually take that away and do what he does best, but Frank Oz can usually be a reliable director, but this is just one of those ones where it's just like, this was just too much for him to handle. This was just too much for this movie to handle. It's a really bad movie. It's a really, really terrible film. It's just, I can't say any more except it's a really bad movie. You should avoid it like the plague. So, so we're 0 for 3 so far, but we've at least got one good movie out of this. I'd rather be 25% for the week than 0%. Am I right or am I right or am I right? Right? See, that time I was going to use, that time that worked. But, so what is that one great movie that came out this weekend? And that is Napoleon Dynamite.
Girls only want boyfriends who have great skills. Like nunchuck skills, bow hunting skills, computer hacking skills.
How was school?
Worst day of my life? What do you think? Idiot. What kind of bike do you have?
It's a sledgehammer.
Dang. You ever take it off any sweet jumps?
What are you drawing?
A liger.
What's a liger?
It's my favorite animal. It's like a lion and a tiger mix.
Why are you so sweaty?
I've been practicing some dance moves. Is Trisha here?
Is that my driveway?
That's my ride.
Of course, not only is this the film that introduced us to Jared Hess as a director, this is also the film that introduced us to John Heder, who has gone on to have a pretty okay career. I mean, he was really coming out strong early on, but then for some reason during the second half of the year, he just kind of vanished. I mean, he hasn't really done a whole lot in particular since then. But in this movie, he plays the title character of Napoleon Dynamite, who is a nerdy high school student who deals with several dilemmas, befriending an immigrant who wants to be class president, played by Efraim Ramirez, and awkwardly pursuing a romance with a fellow student, played by Tina Majorno, who's from Andre and Waterworld, and living with his quirky family, including his uncle Rico, who is getting married to this woman, played by Chandrella Avery, and his grandmother, who I believe is played by, I can't remember her name, Sandy Martin. I said grandmother too, I think, but of course the movie is a film that has gone on to become a massive cult film. It has had success over the years. It's become one of those things where, 20 years after this movie came out, we had Orion having the thing with tater tots, because of course tater tots was one of the big things that people remember from this particular movie, and the movie just has this really quirky, unique edge to it. And I really did not like this movie at first. It took me a while to really understand how much what were people saying in this movie in general that made him really make it as funny as it is to most people. And I think it was after I watched the Napoleon Dynamite TV series on Fox, which was a criminally underrated animated show that only lasted a couple of episodes. They didn't even get through one season before they pulled the plug on it. I'd honestly have that than Crapopolis right now in terms of what Fox Animation is right now. But it kind of turned me back around to the movie, and it's just like, okay, I can now see why, after watching the animated series, about why this character has had such a longevity to it, because we have been characters like this before in our lives. John Heder is that nerdy guy that that a lot of us used to be back in high school. I mean, I don't think I consider myself a nerd, but I wasn't very popular. I wasn't really I was socially awkward. It's probably the best way to describe it. And yeah, these are socially awkward people, but they're likable people, and you do get behind them, and you want to see them all succeed. You want to see You want to see Pedro become a success. You want to see him become student body president, and you want to see Napoleon. You want to see him get through life. You want to see him get the girl. You want to see him go through these crazy adventures. And the film is very funny and very clever, and there's a strong cast of great talent behind the scenes to make it work. Hilary Duff's sister, Diedrich Bader as Rex is very funny in here, but it's Diedrich Bader. I mean, he usually can be very funny. John Greaves is very good as Uncle Rico. Chandrella Avery is great as LaFonda. Sandy Martin is great as his grandmother. I mean, this is a great cast overall here. And it's a movie that has really gotten better over time in general. It's a film that I think really has been. It's a much better film that I think a lot of people, especially me, a lot of people, including myself, I was one of those people that really did not see why it was so good in the first place. But now time has gone on, and I've really seen the true magic of this movie here. It's a movie that takes time to really appreciate the true epicness of it. It's a great film, a very funny comedy. And it does take a while for you to eventually see the magic within it. It took me the animated series to really get myself back into it, but I can see why now, after all these years, of why this movie has had the longevity that it has. It's a really funny movie, man. It's a film that really is really great stuff here. And if you've seen Nacho Libre, this is a movie that you should see after watching Nacho Libre. I saw Nacho Libre as my first Jared Hess movie, so that was my introduction to him in general. But after that, you could probably skip his other stuff, because Gentlemen Broncos isn't a great movie, and I can't remember, has he made anything else of that? Any other movies besides the movie he got nominated for the Oscar for? Yeah, not some very good stuff. Don Verdine's not a great movie. Neither is Masterminds. I haven't seen Thelma the Unicorn yet. But it's one I've been kind of wanting to check out. It's on Netflix, and he's going to be doing the Minecraft movie. I completely forgot he was doing that. But hey, maybe there's hope for him. Maybe there's hope for him down the road to get back on track to where he was before. So yeah, that's Napoleon Dynamite. And like I said, the one crowning jewel of a pretty lousy weekend of new releases.
There are those who are born to be champions.
Here at Globogin, we're better than you, and we know it.
And then there are these guys.
You've got 30 days to make $50,000. Well, your gym becomes my gym. Check it out, cardio cowboy class.
That's extremely heterosexual. It's not gay at all.
If there was any way in the world we could raise $50,000...
I got a great idea to raise the money. A car wash.
I mean, what are the chances? Same day, right across the street.
That's it, boy. Get in there nice and deep.
Now, one team
We can play dodgeball.
has never been
Okay.
so challenged.
I have a tournament in Las Vegas.
The real team needs real uniforms. I hope they fit. Nice.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to this year's Las Vegas International Dodgeball Open. Now, there's a souvenir for a lucky fan.
20th Century Fox presents Vince Vaughn.
I don't think I'll take my chances in the tournament.
Yeah, you will take your chances.
That's what you said.
That's what I'm saying to you.
Okay, I'm not sure where you're going with
Well,
this.
I'm not sure where you're going with this.
All right.
Touche. Ben Stiller.
We should date.
What?
I said we should date.
I just threw up in my mouth a little bit.
Christine Taylor.
Good clean family fun there, eh? Right you are.
This summer, we will rock you. Grab life by the ball. Dodgeball, a true underdog story.
You can dodge a wrench, you can dodge a ball.
God, what a great comedy this is. I mean, this is one of the funniest comedies I've ever seen. This is a movie that I saw it in theaters, I think on opening day, actually, because this was still when I was in high school, and I didn't have to go to school, so I think we went to one of the first showings on that Friday when this came out. But it's It's a movie that I remember laughing as a kid, as a kid watching it then. It still makes me laugh 20 years later, and the story, you can kind of figure out what it is. You have a group of unlikely misfits who enter a Las Vegas dodgeball tournament in the hopes of winning $50,000 to save their cherished local gym from being taken over by corporate health fitness chain Global Gym, led by, I can't remember his name now. I say this is one of my favorite comedies of all time, and I can't remember who Ben Stiller is. White Goodman. Ben Stiller plays White Goodman, and Peter LaFleur is played by Vince Vaughn. And yeah, see, that's the power. That's the power of this. I'm trying not to look at the screen while I'm trying to remember the name of these people, because I've got the Wikipedia page right here, just in case I need to look at something here. But I've seen this movie so many times, I should remember the names of these people in this movie. Oh, good lord. But yeah, like I said, this is a freaking hilarious movie, man. This is a movie that has such a stacked cast overall. Vince Vaughn, Ben Stiller, they're both very funny in here. Christine Taylor is very good, playing kind of the love interest to Vince Vaughn's character. Well, she is the love interest to Vince Vaughn's character, but with a twist at the end, which I will not spoil if you have not seen the movie, because it's actually pretty hilarious how they handle it. You know, you got a bunch of different character actors that you are very familiar with. This is one of Justin Long's early film roles. Stephen Root, of course, from The King of the Hill. Alan Tudyk, who's going to have a really good year in 2004 because he's not only got this, but he'll be starring in iRobot the following month. Rip Torn is absolutely great as Patches O'Houlihan. Hank Azaria has a great little cameo. Missy Pyle plays one of the characters from Global Gym. Joel David Moore, Julie Gonzalo, a lot of cameos in here. You know, Gary Cole and Jason Bateman, who are very funny as the announcers of ESPN 8, The Ocho. Curtis Armstrong, Patton Oswalt's in this as well. Lloyd Beth Denver from All That. William Shatner. There's cameos all over the place. Lance Armstrong has a cameo. Chuck Norris, David Hasselhoff. David Hasselhoff's going to have a pretty good year in 2004, too. He's got two memorable cameos in two great movies. This and the SpongeBob movie, which we'll get to later on. But there really is not much more I can say about this movie that hasn't already been said. It's freaking hilarious. Has some of the most memorable lines that you can always remember every time you go back to it. Like the whole, especially Jason Bateman. I think this was also in a year where Jason Bateman was kind of stepping back from that character that we saw back in the 80s with him and stuff like Silver Spoons and It's Your Move, and like these, and you know, he's growing his character out. And becoming known as this great comedic actor because he was in Starsky and Hutch. He'd been in a couple other movies later on down the road in the year, and it was another movie for the Frat Pack people too. This was still when the Frat Pack was slowly but surely beginning to build their great stretch going into the rest of the decade. But the movie is just so hilarious. It's so funny. It's a very formulaic plot, yes, but what they do to make you laugh in this movie, because that's the whole purpose of the movie, is that to simply make you laugh out loud. And there are moments in here that are so goddamn hilarious that I can't, like, there's too many things in this movie to really, like, I'd be sitting here for over an hour talking about all the great things about this movie in general. This is just a movie that is just so well done. It's a film that knows exactly what it's trying to be. It knows exactly what it's trying to accomplish, and it just knows exactly how to have a good time. It can be really stupid at times, but the stupidity plays into part of the fun, man. I mean, this is just a classic movie. What more can I say about this film that hasn't already been said? Dodgeball, A True Underdog Story, is a terrific film. And, you know, they've been talking about doing a sequel for a long period of time, and I think they just said in the last year or so they're going to try to redo the production of getting a sequel off the ground. But honestly, I really don't want to see a sequel to this. I mean, the first movie works fine on its own. There's really not much more you can do with a sequel to this. I mean, because I feel like if they do a sequel, it'll probably end up being the same thing that happened to Zoolander 2, which was a complete pointless sequel, which just threw in these random cameos that did not make a whole lot of sense. And it's just, I don't know. Like, to me, the first Dodgeball is more than enough. We don't need a sequel. We don't need another film coming more than 20-plus years after the original film. Because the track record for comedy sequels 20-plus years later is not good. I mean, like, and it's just, like, I really don't want to see him to ruin a great movie that works fine on its own as a one film in general. But it's like, just stick with one film, go do something else, do something original. Like, give us something new and different. But, like I said, I love this movie. I really hope they don't make a sequel to this. I really hope this just stays a one-movie film. But regardless, it's one of the funniest comedies I've ever seen. Dodgeball, a true underdog story. I can't recommend this one enough. If you have not seen it, see it. It is definitely well worth the time. So, speaking of movies that you should see, and definitely should see, let's take a look at the second big new release of the weekend, and that is Steven Spielberg's The Terminal.
Flight 1820 with Zurich will depart from gate 36.
Mr. Navarsky, please follow me.
While you were in the air, there was a military coup in your country.
The Republic of Carcosia is under new leadership.
Carcosia? I don't think he gets it.
Where do I buy the Nike shoes? I'm going to need the passport also. No, Mr. Navorsky. Beyond those doors is American soil. You are not to leave this building. There's a man walking around the terminal in a bathrobe.
I think it's CIA.
You don't know what the hell you're talking about. That guy doesn't even speak English. I think you...
Do you live nearby?
Yes, gate 67.
Because we are very particular about punctuality. Did you say gate 67?
We don't play for cash. We play for unclaimed items from the lost and found.
She's a wild stallion. You help me to win her heart, or you'll never go home again.
Officer, my friend say you are a stallion. What? Like a horse.
Stand behind the O-line.
Opa, this belong you.
Please.
We headed for home?
No, I am delayed long time.
You are the kind of woman who can get any guy she wants. Why Victor Navorsky?
That's something a guy like you could never understand.
You ever feel like you're just living at an airport?
Flight 101 depart from gate 66. Ladies and gentlemen, flight 312 now delayed.
Steven Spielberg as a whole is no doubt one of our great directors. He's made so many great movies in his legendary career. I don't think that even needs to be said at this point. But the way every director, there's always those couple of movies that always seem to slip away from people's memories. I mean, Francis Ford Coppola in the 1980s had a number of these movies because they weren't big financial hits, but they were really good movies overall. I mean, there was a lot of great stuff in the 80s from him. You know, One from the Heart, The Cotton Club, Rumblefish, The Outsiders, Tucker, The Man in His Dream, Peggy Sue Got Married. And Steven Spielberg's definitely one of those examples of that. And there's, like I said, there's always those couple of movies that always seem to slip away from people's memories because they weren't big critical hits, they weren't big financial hits. In fact, Spielberg's had a couple of them as of late. The Fabelmans and West Side Story were not big financial hits, and they're probably up there with some of his most underrated movies. But this movie here, The Terminal, might just be his most underrated movie of all time, because this is a film that I remember growing up loving. I was really excited to see it in theaters when I was a kid. I think I saw it the same day as Dodgeball. It's just a great, great film. In it, you have Tom Hanks playing Victor Navarsky, who's a man who's being trapped inside of New York's JFK airport terminal when he's denied entry into the United States when the country of Carcosia has gone into war. And at the same time, he can't return to his native country due to the military coup. And it's basically inspired by the story of this 18-year stay by this guy, Miron Karimini Nasseria, I think I'm pronouncing that right, who lived in Terminal 1 of Charles de Gaulle International Airport in Paris, France, from 1988 to 2006. And so after arriving at the airport, he gets unwillingly caught in bureaucratic glitches that make it impossible for him to return to his home country or enter the U.S. now. Caught up in the Ritchie complex and amusing world inside the airport. He makes friends, gets a job, and finds romance with Catherine Zeta-Jones, as you can see, and ultimately discovers America itself. And it's a movie that I've been waiting to talk about for the longest time because this really is one of his best movies. Probably my top 10 favorite Steven Spielberg directed movies. I really love this film. I love it for a number of reasons. The premise is great. It's such a clever and interesting concept based off of a real story. And it just leads to so many possibilities of what could be done with this kind of a fascinating story to tell. And this movie definitely delivers on that and then some. The casting, I think, overall is great, which I think Tom Hanks does a very good job of creating this character, even doing a pretty good foreign accent for a country that was completely made up for this film. So you can't really say that, oh, he offended people from this land of Krakosia. This place doesn't even exist in real life. But I'm just saying, like, I love the fact that they had to create this. That's because one of my favorite movies is That Thing You Do, and Tom Hanks basically had to create his own world of music for that film because those bands in that movie basically do not exist in real life. But this is this is a film that is it's a great film. Like, it's getting back up. I know I'm getting off the subject here for a little bit, but let's keep going. But Hanks is very good in the film. You got Catherine Zeta-Jones, who works very well. Their chemistry they establish is very well done. I like Stanley Tucci a lot because he's the antagonist, but he's not really a villain. And I like the fact that he's not played as a villain. Like, he's a guy that's just trying to do his job, and there gets to a point where, it reminds me a lot of The Truman Show, which was very convincing because the same man that wrote this is also the guy that wrote The Truman Show, Andrew Niccol. And in that movie, Ed Harris is kind of seen as the antagonist, but even he kind of realizes that maybe he takes it too far. And I like that in this movie he does the exact same thing with Stanley Tucci's character. It's a very good character overall. You get to see great people like Chi McBride, Diego Luna, Eddie Jones, Zoe Saldana, who, of course, went on to become the big star that she's become. This is one of the first. I think this was the first film I actually saw her in. Terrific cast overall in this movie, and it does a great job of blending comedy and drama nicely. The dialogue in the movie is pitch perfect. They don't go too far. They don't go too far with the whole idea of, there's the cliches. Like, you don't get the cliches of, like, the big third act breakup. There's a moment where, the lie gets revealed, but it's immediately, like, within a few minutes, completely contained. Like, it doesn't drag the movie out by any means necessary. And a lot of great talent on the writing front here. You've got people like I said, Andrew Niccol, who gave us The Truman Show, and wrote and directed Lord of War and Gattaca. Sasha Gervasi, who directed Hitchcock, and the writer of Anvil, The Story of Anvil, and Jeff Nathanson, who has actually written some good, fun movies in general. Rush Hour 2, Catch Me If You Can, criminally underrated stuff like The Last Shot, Tower Heist, even stuff like, even Guilty Pleasures of mine, Speed 2, he wrote that as well, and he wrote Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, which I'm sorry to tell you, it's not a bad movie. There has not been I'm sorry, that's not if there's one bad Indiana Jones movie, it's Temple of Doom, and I will stick by that until the day I die, damn it. But I digress. Probably my favorite aspect of the movie is that it really was kind of a massive turning point for Steven Spielberg, for proving that, he can do. He went back to being what made his career begin. What finally got him the Oscar that year in '93, because he can direct these big blockbuster movies, and in that same year he can give us great films, but in the same year he can also give us that great movie. It's a great, much smaller film in general, something like Schindler's List. Like, he proves here that he can direct these great movies that are not blockbusters or high budget fares, and probably would have been better off with another director. And he still makes a really great film out of it. I absolutely love this movie. It's not only Spielberg's most underrated film as a director, but it's definitely one of his best movies as a director as a whole. And there's a lot of people out there I know who have not seen this movie, and I'm telling you folks, you are doing yourself a major, major disservice by not doing so. The Terminal is a great film. Check it out. You will not be disappointed. It's a really damn good film. I can't recommend this one enough. So, alright, so let's go ahead and get to the mixed bag movie of the weekend. A movie that I thought was like, the more I thought about it, it maybe isn't as bad as I thought it was. It's just more underwhelming than I thought it was. Let's take a look at the last film we have here. Jackie Chan and Steve Coogan in Around the World in 80 Days from Disney.
He turns on for a whistle.
It was going to be a clap, but I feel my hands are put to far better use working on this. A machine that will allow a man to fly. Please don't do that.
Inventor Phileas Fogg was a dreamer.
By my calculations, I could travel around the world in 80 days.
Nobody believed in him.
Well then, Paul, a wager. If you have up, you must never invent again.
I'll take your wager!
Now,
we're going to stop Fogg by any means necessary!
A man man who has always lived life by the book.
You really believe we can succeed?
Yes, has 80 days to prove just how far his imagination can take him.
We will make history. Or we will die trying.
Very impressive. I'd have let go by now.
Your journey ends here.
He'll have to face his fears.
This is what happens when you leave your home.
I gotcha.
You meet people.
And he'll have to find the courage.
Where are they now?
They're traveling across China.
You're silly bracelets. Don't frighten me. All right. It's not silly.
To discover his destiny.
I'm seeing the world, working on my flying machine, and learning of new cultures.
Miss Larouche says to be my wife. Wife number 7.
I've 7 wives?
One for each day of the week. Do Tuesdays work for you?
Walden Media presents.
I risked everything. The entire life's work.
For something you believe in, nothing could make more sense than that.
A story about how far you can go.
Please step off. Are you sure?
No! When you chase your dreams. Around the world in 80 days.
Watch out on the right. Oh, no, my right.
Stop helping me!
Sorry.
I guess Disney was the main distributor here in the U.S. because that trailer is completely focusing more on Walden Media, which I think this was actually one of their earliest movies where their name eventually began to take over on a lot of different kids' films. But this is Around the World in 80 Days. This is the film that is based off, of course, the best-selling, the beloved book by Jules Verne, the 1873 novel, in which you have here, it takes place in the 19th century and centers on Phineas Fogg, played by Steve Coogan, here reimagined as an eccentric inventor in his efforts to circumnavigate the globe in 80 days. And during this trip, he's accompanied by his Chinese valet, played by Jackie Chan. For comedic reasons, the film intentionally deviated wildly from the novel and included a number of anachronistic elements, including Arnold Schwarzenegger showing up in the movie as the Prince Happy, which I can't remember who he was. Now I can't remember who he was. The Prince of Istanbul, who was actually really funny in the movie. Like, that scene there in the trailer is really good. And he has a lot of really good, funny moments in the film. And this is around the time when he was governor of California, so I guess he made this before then. But, yeah, I remember this movie not being that great, but going back to it a couple months ago to get ready for this, I gotta say, like, the pieces were definitely there for something very fun in general, but I think a couple things really hold it back. One, the fact that they went all straightforward comedy, I think really hurts them in the long run. I think the fact that they went so far away from the books, I think really hurts them in the long run. I think they got Frank Coraci, who did The Waterboy and would later do Click after this. And he also did The Wedding Singer too. A good director overall, but I just don't feel like he had a good enough script to really work with here. You got 3 writers here who I don't know too much about, because 2 of the guys here, I barely see any works by them. And the first guy, David Titcher, is more known for creating the show The Librarian, which is basically kind of like a TNT knockoff of Indiana Jones in a way, which that show also included Bob Newhart, which, by the way, today he died, so rest in peace, Bob Newhart. But getting off topic there for a second. But I also think the movie also really failed because it doesn't have that big cast that a story like this should have. I mean, there's big names in it. Like I said, Jackie Chan, Steve Coogan, Arnold Schwarzenegger. You've got Cecile DeFrance from High Tension, Jim Broadbent, Ewan Brenner, Mark Addy's also in here, Kathy Bates, John Cleese, Richard Branson's also in the movie as well, Rob Schneider, Luke Wilson, Owen Wilson, Macy Gray for some reason. This was around the time when people were trying to make her the next big thing. Will Forte, I think this was pre-Saturday Night Live, or just when he was starting on Saturday Night Live, if I'm not mistaken. But I don't know, like, there was another version that NBC did back, a miniseries version with Pierce Brosnan in it. I think that had a big cast in general here. I think they really should have just went all out with this and just gone with a huge cast. I mean, it's co-produced by Disney. You mean to tell me that Disney won't put all that more money into getting more bigger names in this? They put more money into Home on the Range than they did with this movie. That should tell you something right there. Like, but then again, this was in that second half of the tenure of Michael Eisner, where, you know, go for cheap and pretend to make it seem like it's much bigger than it has any intentions to be. But I don't know. Like, there's definitely a lot of pieces there where this probably could have worked. I really do think that this really could have worked better if they had more of a bigger budget to it, if there was more of an ensemble to it, a bigger high-profile ensemble to it, if they tried to go more closer to the books. There's a great movie in here somewhere, and I feel like somebody out there will eventually make a great movie adaptation of the storyline where it can be not just an action-adventure, but also a comedy as well. Looking to see some of the other versions of Around the World in 80 Days that have been done since this movie came out, and there was one that was like an animated movie that you would probably see in a Walmart $5 DVD bin, which looks pretty bad. But there's also one with David Tennant that's on a TV series that's on I think it's on the BBC, which has gotten some good reviews to it. So maybe there is a good modern adaptation of this out there. I just haven't found it, But yeah, like I said, this is a movie that definitely could have been a whole lot better. This is a film that could have easily been a film that really should have been a lot bigger and a lot more ambitious than they could have been. But the end result is just a film that has a lot more potential to it that just doesn't really live up to what it could have been. It's a shame because the pieces are definitely there. There are some promising elements to it, but just a botched movie in general. And a film that could have probably, like I said, could have been a whole lot better, but as it is, just really isn't a great film in general. It's one that I would say it's not bad, but it definitely could have been a whole lot better with the stuff that could have been done with it. So that's Around the World in 80 Days.
You can make people do anything if they're afraid.
The FAA has taken the action to close all of the airports in the United States.
All commercial and airline traffic was grounded.
But we had some airplanes authorized at the highest levels of our government to pick up Osama bin Laden's family members and transport them out of this country.
In the middle of the war, corporations decided to hold a conference to figure out how much money could be made.
Once that oil starts flowing, it's going to be lots of money. Whatever it costs, the government will pay you.
It's going to be good for business, bad for the people.
Congressman, trying to get members of Congress to get their kids to enlist in the Army and go over to Iraq.
The USA Patriot Act allows for searches of medical and financial records.
It gives law enforcement almost unlimited power. They wait till the middle of the night. It's printed in the middle of the night.
How could Congress pass this Patriot Act without even reading it?
Sit down, my son. We don't read most of the bills.
No one read it.
Members of Congress, this is Michael Moore. I would like to read to you the USA Patriot Act.
Let the eagle soar.
From the corridors of power
Congressman?
to the streets of small-town America to the front lines.
This is an impressive crowd, the haves and the have-mores. Some people call you the elite. I call you my base.
Comes the true story that will make your temperature rise.
I call upon all nations to do everything they can to stop these terrorist killers. Thank you. Now watch this drive.
Don't you remember those days when George W. Bush was considered to be the biggest threat to democracy? Oh, good times, good times. Certainly a lot better than today, but I digress. Fahrenheit 9/11. This is, like I said, the follow-up from Michael Moore after Bowling for Columbine, won him an Academy Award. And the subjects of the film, as you can tell, are the presidency of George W. Bush, the Iraq War, the media's coverage of the war, and more states that American corporate media were cheerleaders for the 2003 invasion of Iraq and did not provide an accurate or objective analysis for the rationale of war and the resulting casualties there. There are so many controversies with this movie in particular. I swear we would be here all night long talking about them. But there are a lot of controversies to the film. Specifically, most notably, one of the big ones is the fact that this was a highly praised movie when it came out and should have been easily the frontrunner for Best Documentary Feature. However, Michael Moore decided to air the movie on television the month before the 2004 election, which basically eliminated the chances of it winning, of being nominated for Best Documentary, because the Documentary Film Board basically said that if it's on TV before they essentially said before, if the documentary's on TV before it's eligible for awards consideration, it's considered ineligible. It was something like that. And then Michael Moore basically said, well, fine, I don't want the Documentary Feature Award. I'm going to go for the big prize, Best Picture, man. I mean, this movie is going to be it. And, yeah, spoiler alert, this did not get a Best Picture nomination. So, yeah, good job, Michael Moore. You kind of thought too much of this movie, especially when you consider also the fact that, yeah, he thought that this would be the movie that would basically get Bush out of the White House, and far from it, because Bush won. I think he essentially won in a landslide, if I remember correctly. It wasn't as big as it wasn't as crazy as the first time he got elected, of course, but when George Bush went up against Al Gore. But John Kerry really did not have a chance whatsoever. I mean, this was around the time where you still had people who were still rooting for George Bush, mostly because of what he did for 9/11, how his popularity was very high at that point, and then even as his downward turn came with the war in Iraq, he was still seen as the better option over John Kerry, and basically that's basically for what this movie had to. Yeah, this movie really did not do what I think they wanted it to do with it. And I did remember going to see this movie when it came out. I mean, this was a movie that everyone was talking about. This was still around the time when I went to go see these movies. I went to go see movies on my own for the first time, and I thought, you know what, this would be something interesting to talk about here. But even though even though I had no outlet to really do this with, I thought, I'll go check it out, see if it's worth it. And I mean, at the time, I thought it was all right. 20 years later, I don't know, it really does not hold up well over time, honestly. I mean, I get what Michael Moore was trying to do here. I mean, it was essentially, the idea was that this movie would be bad enough for people to go look at it and realize that, wow, George Bush is a complete monster and should not be in the White House. And like I said, it didn't really work out that way in the long run, because he essentially got reelected in, I think, if I remember right, it was kind of a landslide, sort of. Because I don't think John Kerry was even close in some places, but yeah, this was a movie that had controversy all around to it, and the film, for the time, I thought was alright, but as I've watched it 20 years later, it really has not held up well over time, especially when you consider what politics has essentially become nowadays. And I don't want to make this whole political area, a whole political section here. I mean, I don't want to get into that kind of territory. We kind of have to with this movie, because the stuff in here is pretty controversial. I mean, everyone remembers the scenes where, you know, when George Bush is hearing about the September 11th attacks for the first time, and he's in an elementary school in Florida, and he really doesn't know what to do at that point. I mean, he's sitting there in a classroom with all these children, and, like, he's just sitting there, like, what, like, how do you take that in? It's just, like, you kind of, and at the same time, you kind of agree with the way he was going in that direction, because, like, what are you supposed to tell these little elementary school kids? Is that the world's, is, like, it's a really tough thing to say and do at that point. And at the same time, I kind of agree that, yeah, that's probably a move I would have done if I was president and something like that happened. Like, I don't know what I would have done in that situation, really. Like, which I think Scary Movie 4 actually parodied that pretty well here. And of course, you got that scene at the end of the trailer where George was just talking about, like, well, we got to stop these terrorists. We got to stop these terrorists. And then it comes back and it's like, now watch this drive. Like, the movie still has those little funny moments that still do kind of hold up. As far as the rest of the film itself goes, like I said, considering where we're at now with politics, it's a film that really has not held up well over time. It's not bad per se. Like, it isn't something where I say it's a bad movie in general, but it's definitely a film that, for the time it was coming out, for the zeitgeist period that it was coming out, it works. But watching it 20 years later, it's one of those films that really does not hold up well over time, honestly, especially with the way the world is now. But so yeah, it's a movie that really has not aged well, pretty much. But so that's Fahrenheit 9/11 for you. So let's go ahead and let's get away from that, and let's get to a movie that really does not hold up well over time, and that is the Wayans Brothers. And even held up back when it came out. The Wayans Brothers, starring in White Chicks.
FBI agents Marcus and Kevin Copeland have been assigned to protect the heiresses to a multi-billion-dollar fortune.
If the kidnapper strikes, we will be ready. All you gotta do is pick him up and drop him off.
now
You don't actually think we're gonna go to the Hamptons looking like that?
to catch their kidnappers.
One more screw up and me and you are through. You know them girls ain't gonna be there?
Oh, they'll be there. They'll have to do the unthinkable.
Yo, what's up, money? You got a problem? Nah, yo, hold my poodle, huh? Hold my poodle, dog. What, you want some of this? You want some of this? Look, you don't want none of this, son? I'll take the both of you.
I think I don't need to show you much more of that because I think you pretty much got the gist of this movie in general. $100 million hit, even though it's seen as one of the worst comedies ever made. But that is White Chicks Toy, and I think that a little bit right there pretty much tells you everything that's wrong with this movie. You have the Wayans brothers, Marlon and Sean, playing two black male FBI agents who go undercover as white women by using whiteface to protect two hotel heiresses from a kidnapping plot targeting socialites. And, yeah, how these two were able to pull this off is just something where you really... Here's the thing. You have to go into this movie knowing how stupid it is. And if you can accept the stupidity for what it is, you're probably going to enjoy it. I saw this in the theater too. Like I saw it because I like the Wayans brothers. I like The Living Color. I like the scary movie films. I liked a lot of their comedy. And the stupid 15-year-old me went to see it. At the time, I thought it was funny, but I didn't really have a keen. I really didn't have a keen idea of about movies in general. I mean, I knew about movies in general, but seeing more of these, I was only, like, going to the movie theater was pretty much a fun opportunity, especially going there by myself. But as time has gone on, I've realized that, yeah, this is one of those movies that I regret probably saying is a good movie. And, but again, it's one of those movies where you have to go into it knowing it's stupid. If you know it's stupid right off the bat, you're probably going to have a good time with it. But, me personally, it's a film that really is... It's a film that really is about as lazy as it gets. Everyone in this movie acts like an idiot. There's no common sense placed in this movie whatsoever. The jokes really aren't that funny. I mean, it's just a film that is just so... It is literally what you think it's going to be. The only one... There's one thing that this movie has that makes it work in the long run, and that is, of course, Terry Crews, who has... probably the best laughs in the entire movie. And I mean, he was the best thing about Friday After Next. This was when he was slowly but surely building his resume as a comedic actor, and it was showing that in these movies where they may have not been great, but you know what? He's the one thing that you remember from those movies being the funniest things. And yeah, how can you not like him in this movie? I mean, he's so funny in here. Even everybody else in the movie is very funny, but at the same time, they're just not given anything funny to do. And it's a pretty lame movie in general, and it just like... It really does not make any sense why they thought this was a good idea from the get-go. Like anybody with a brain could... This isn't like Dumb and Dumber, where Dumb and Dumber was dumb, but it was at least smart in its dumbness. This is just plain dumb. Like, this is more dumb than Dumb and Dumber. I mean, like, how many times can I say dumb? Take a drink. How many times I say dumb in this? But, yeah, this is a really dumb movie. And, yeah, It's a film that really has not held up well over time. It's not. I don't think it's as funny as people make it out to be. It's become a cult classic over the years, and quite frankly, I can't see why. Because I don't know, man. It's just not funny to me. Like I still don't find it amusing, except for the stuff with Terry Crews. But other than that, though, it's just a movie that really is about as lazy as it gets. I think if you go into it knowing how stupid it's going to be, you have a good time with it. But me personally, it's a film that really has not resonated well and held up as well as it should over the last 20 years. It's a movie that's, it's pretty bad. It's pretty bad. Probably the worst movie we have on this particular show this week. So with that said, let's go ahead and move on to our next movie, and that is a much better film than White Chicks. Ryan Gosling and Rachel McAdams in The Notebook.
Tommy, you saw her. What are you doing tonight?
I'm busy.
Well, what can I do to change your mind? He would love her forever.
You are 17 years old. You don't know anything about love.
He's not for you.
Now he'll do anything to get her back. I wrote you every day for a year.
You wrote me?
Yes.
I have a fiancé waiting for me.
This is not about keeping your promise. It's about following your heart. Ryan Gosling, Rachel McAdams, James Marsden, The Notebook, rated PG-13. Special sneak preview this Saturday.
This is the movie that basically made Nicholas Sparks a box office draw because everybody was trying to make any of his books into the next big hit, and that lasted a good chunk of time too. I mean, 15 years after this movie came out, it was kind of everyone was trying to make the next Notebook, and nobody can really top what they did with this movie. Because you got two great leads, Ryan Gosling and Rachel McAdams, at the forefront here. Of course, Ryan Gosling was slowly but surely building his legacy, and Rachel McAdams had already started building her legacy with Mean Girls a couple weeks prior. They both star as a young couple who fall in love in the 1940s, and their story is read from a notebook in the present day by an elderly man played by James Garner, telling the tale to a fellow nursing home resident played by Jenna Rollins, and you find out that these two were essentially the same couple here, and you know, it's very sappy. It's a very sappy film that pretty much is a straightforward chick flick, but it's definitely one of the better chick flicks in general, mostly because you really like the chemistry between Gosling and McAdams. I mean, these two do work off each other really well here. You do really get involved in their storyline, even though it is a very formulaic storyline in general. You've also got a cast that includes James Marsden, Joan Allen, Sam Shepard, Kevin Connolly. A good cast in general, and a film that really... It is what it is, but it is definitely one of the better interpretations of how to tell this story. It's about to tell like a sappy romantic story, but do it in a way where it has mass appeal to it, because you do get, like I said, you do get invested in these two in the past, but the big reveal about the relationship later on down the road, which you can kind of figure out going forward, and even then, it's still very well done. It's a very well put together film. All the performances are great. Nick Cassavetes directed this movie. He does a very good job of handling the storyline in general. It's a really good movie, man. It really is a good adaptation of a Nicholas Sparks storyline, of Nicholas Sparks' book, I should say. But it's a film that definitely works because you've got some great performances, a really engaging storyline here, and some good moments that, you know, it's one of those movies where if a guy like me is starting to tear up thinking about the ending of this movie, that should tell you how well they did this film. It's one of those movies where they perfectly handled it well. I can't recommend it enough, man. It's a really good movie. That definitely is much better. I think it's a lot better than some people may think of it, because it was a big hit when it came out. It didn't get the best reviews in general. It actually got mixed reviews when it came out in theaters, but it's definitely a film that has held up well over time, and it is definitely one of the best romantic dramas of the last couple of decades. It's a really good film that definitely deserves a lot more attention. Not more attention than it's already gotten as it is, but you get the idea of what I'm saying. It's a really good movie. So, with that said, let's go ahead and move on to the last movie here. A movie that I do remember seeing in theaters, and then I almost immediately forgot about it. This is Two Brothers.
For Kumal and Sangha, the jungle was the only home they'd ever known. Until the day...
What are you doing here?
They were taken from their family. On June 25th, experience their incredible journey home.
They're just trying to find their way back.
Two Brothers, rated PG, starts June 25th.
Yeah, this is one of those movies that I do remember seeing it in a theater, and I saw the trailers for it on TV. For some reason, I got attached to it. I don't know what it was. I don't know what it was, because I never heard of this director before I saw this movie. You know him as Jean-Jacques Annaud, who also did he also did the very similar film The Bear. He did stuff like Quest for Fire, 7 Years in Tibet, The Lover, Enemy at the Gate. So he's made a lot of movies that were well received. And this is a movie that was received well by critics, but almost kind of faded into obscurity almost immediately after it came out. And like I said, it's been 20 years since I saw this movie, and I watched it again getting ready for this. You have a story here where you have two Indonesian tiger brothers named Kumal and Sangha, who were separated from their parents as cubs. They reunite a year later as adults to find their way back home. And you've got Guy Pearson here, and a young Freddie Highmore, who was about to have who's also having kind of a good overall year, because he would do this. Then following that, he would be in Finding Neverland, and then the next summer he'd be in Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. So it's basically 1 year's worth of really solid films that really established his career. But I remember liking the movie when it came out, and I bought it on DVD. Was when it came out. I think I got it for Christmas, actually, if I'm not mistaken. I never watched it, and I got rid of it because I never watched it again. And I don't know why I never did. I don't know. It just went. I mean, I liked it the first time I saw it for a one-time watch, but watching it again, I really am thinking to myself, why the hell did I get rid of this movie? Because this movie actually is pretty damn good. I mean, it's not quite as good as some of Jacques Amin's other works, like The Bear or Quest for Fire, but this is a really solid film, and you do get attached to the two lions in here. They work off each other. The two lions are very fun to watch. Guy Pearce is very good in the film, and so is Freddie Highmore, showing off what he can do in general. And it looks authentic, too. It doesn't feel like a film that's using a lot of CG in general. It doesn't feel like a film that's going too chaotic when it needs to. Because we've seen movies like this where they have all these different animals in here, and it goes completely haywire and goes completely wrong. Roar is one of the best examples of that. The family adventure that turned into this real-life horror movie for the people involved. But we're still a couple of years away from that getting an official release. But yeah, this movie is far different than that, except it's more sweeter, it's much more family friendly, it's a very charming movie. The cinematography in general is really good here. The cinematographer, Jean-Marie Dugeot, I think he's one of the same cinematographers who did The Bear as well. If it's not him, then it's a really good... No, it's not him. It's Philippe Rousseau, who did, I think he did the Lord of the Rings movies, did that one. Maybe this isn't a good director that's done a lot of movies with him, but he does a pretty good job of handling this. The music by Steven Warbeck's very good. It's a very entertaining movie. It's a light comfort movie too. Like, you can watch it, and it's a film that really, you do get attached to it very much, because it is a very charming film. The lines are very good to watch. I mean, the actors are very good. It's a movie that I really am questioning why I got rid of it. Maybe it's because it is one of those movies that maybe it just needs to sit for a long period of time, and then when I have to do something like this, I try to find it again, and it's just like, this movie is a lot better than I remember it being. It's a movie that, yeah, it's a film that I think deserves a lot more attention than it gets. It's a movie that I think is very good. The lines are very good to watch. The atmosphere is very good. It's a really engaging film. I recommend it. It's a film that's very underrated. It's definitely one that you should definitely check out. Two Brothers.